Good morning. Adam Taxin here in Byram, Mississippi for my sunrise report. A little flexibility with time and location today because it was so overcast that there was not going to be any sunrise. That was clear early on. Just getting the picture just right. I think that's better there. So I'm a little bit south of Jackson, and well, let's just get into the news. Starting with what happened overnight. Often what happened overnight, since I did my sunset report, is going to be overseas in Europe and the Middle East. Just not that much happens. Well, a lot happens at night sometimes, but usually it's more stuff that occurs overseas. And so let's start Israel. There was not that unusual a thing, but just you should know that this is the normal over there. It's might well become the normal in Europe and in this country. But a rocket from Gaza hit southern Israel in the dead of night. This hit a field, causing neither damage nor injury, but it's just something that they lived with. And, you know, Israel did give back the Gaza Strip to get peace. So maybe God was looking out. That's why it didn't hit anything. That has been the case the last few years, but just keep in mind that in the 2.5 years since Israel waged a war against Hamas, the terrorists, in 2014, the number of rocket attacks against the Jewish state has dropped to historically low levels, approximately once or twice a month. So maybe it is a little newsworthier than it might have been 2 years ago, which is a good thing. Report from Nora Tillman, who's over in Ireland, Dublin. She has just some great points and insights about the situation in Europe more generally, and this is what she writes. An interesting item is how many in the UK think Trump is bloody right on NATO. Too many European states have built extravagant socialist structures with funds that would have otherwise been spent on defense. For years, European hippies marched against the U.S. nuclear presence in Europe. Now that there's a president actually talking about turning his back on NATO, they're shivering. He would have to have a heart of stone not to laugh. And then she continues. An interesting item is how many in the... Then she continues, there are 2 elections coming up in Europe to watch closely, those in France and the Netherlands. In France, Marine Le Pen of the National Front is riding high as her opponents are awash in scandal. In particular, Francois Fillon, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, of the UMP, which are French conservatives, or so-called French conservatives. He was tagged to be the next coming of Thatcher. However, he's currently being dragged down in Le Scandale, the scandal of hiring his wife. In the end, she says, the socialists and the centrists will get together and vote in whoever Le Pen's opponent is in a second round of voting. But if there is a terrorist incident, a lot of scared French voters will flock to Le Pen. Now in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders, who's pretty famous, he has a good chance of getting in as Netherlands' prime minister, which is just amazing given he was on trial for saying anti-Islamic things not that long ago, or supposedly anti-Islamic things not that long ago. But Nora Tillman writes, he's a little shaky. He's the kind of fellow that would ban a lot of Jewish observances as collateral damage in banning Muslim ones. Who knows? But he's a friend of Israel. He's even spent time over there. And so she continues, there are a lot of anti-Islamicist politicians looking to score points by 1, banning circumcision, 2, banning religious slaughter, 3, banning distinctive religious garb. It could be a burqa or it could be a kippah. It's important to tread those lines carefully. Now, Larry Cordova, who goes by Larry Love, a great guy I met when I was covering Trump in Everett, Washington. Maybe when was that? July or August, I think? August, probably. Met him. He was working the crowd with me. He just joined along, Mexican-American guy. And he's funny. He's a lot of fun. But he wrote this to me. He wrote just a question. I like it, though. Should President Trump invite Vladimir Putin to the White House the same day of the White House Correspondents Dinner? I hadn't thought of that, but that's a great point. Even maybe let Putin take over the podium microphone and thank the media for giving him so much publicity. Hey, works for me. Now, a great piece I read, it's been making the rounds, in Allgemeiner, which is a Jewish publication. It's called Donald Trump and the Anti-Semitism Smear. It's by a guy named Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who refers to himself, kind of cheesily in my opinion, as America's rabbi. You know, there's definitely some controversy. He was close with Michael Jackson. He was very sad that he got done wrong by Cory Booker after investing so much time in trying to become BFFAA with Cory Booker. But the point is, he is a good writer, and this was excellent. So let me read you a little bit It's called Donald Trump and the Anti-Semitism Smear. I'm just going to read you a lot. It's on Allgemeiner by Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, which is Boteach. Okay, I'm just going to start off reading the early part of this and whet your appetite for more. He writes, let's cut through all the clutter and get straight to the main issues surrounding Donald Trump and the allegations of anti-Semitism. Firstly, to suggest that President Trump dislikes Jews would have us believe that he despises his own daughter and grandchildren, when precisely the opposite appears to be true. Ivanka seems to be the apple of his eye. Indeed, when his daughter was dating Jared Kushner, an observant Jew from a famously observant family, her father could have easily dissuaded her from converting, but instead publicly supported her doing so and threw a kosher wedding for the couple. Secondly, the charge also suggests that Trump's strong support for Israel is inauthentic, though he has worn those views on his sleeve for his entire adult life. Trump as anti-Semite is not only implausible, it is absurd and libelous. Okay, so Trump is definitely not an anti-Semite. One would even suggest that he's a philo-Semite, someone who particularly likes Jews more than one would expect, more than one would treat just a decent person of a race that you're not a part of. That's what a philo-Semite is, I guess. He has surrounded himself with Jews who are his business colleagues, employees, and friends. Rabbi Boteach writes, I know Orthodox Jews who have long worked for Trump and say that his respect for the Jewish faith has been exemplary. But is Trump sending dog whistles to his white supremacist supporters who dislike Jews? Then he addresses that and pretty much shoots that down. Again, you may want to read the whole article, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, Boteach, in Allgemeiner, Algemeiner, called Donald Trump and the Anti-Semitism Smear. Now, some short articles and just headlines. From TVLine.com, this caught my attention. You heard about the fiascos with the Oscars, but the story is called, and it's self-explanatory, Ratings, Oscars hit 9-year low. Can the downward trend be reversed? And just a quick thing out of that, ABC's presentation of the 89th Annual Academy Awards delivered 32.9 million total viewers and a 9.1 demo rating, down 4% and 3% from last year's Chris Rock hosted outing, which recorded 8-year lows. You'd have to go back to 2008's Jon Stewart, we'll have more about him later. Jon Stewart Leibowitz hosted Oscars, where No Country for Old Men won Best Picture to find a smaller audience, which was 32 million. A tweet from a guy from the alt-right, a little controversial, but he's the real alt-right. I'm not just throwing around that term. Baked Alaska on Twitter. I think it's an excellent point. He writes, liberals are praising warmongering neocon George W. Bush just because he criticized Trump. Please continue showing your stupidity. And then he retweeted something from Glenn Greenwald. I'm not sure. I think this may be ironic. I think Glenn Greenwald, who is a liberal, who is gay, but is a real journalist, just not one I agree with. I think he's mocking the liberal hypocrisy. Glenn Greenwald tweeted, 2005, George W. Bush is a pillaging, torturing war criminal who let a city down. 2017, I may have disagreed with Bush, but he was a good man. Another interesting tweet, hide the kids, Dick Flicks it's related to, and that actually was trending on Twitter. I mean, who knows, you see the things they block on Twitter, but then, well, this is from Michael Flynn Jr., who was in the news a few weeks ago. He tweeted, we are so cool, says @Jack @Twitter, for allowing hashtag #DickFlix to trend. Then he writes, who's running this organization? An article from Newsmax. Bill Nye will see about jailing climate change skeptics. And it starts off, global warming skeptics should be jailed by the federal government because this extreme doubt about climate change is affecting my quality of life as a public citizen. Science activist Bill Nye said in a video published Wednesday on YouTube, was it appropriate to jail the guys from Enron? Nye, former host of the PBS children's series The Science Guy, asked an interviewer from the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow. That's a report from the Daily Caller. I'm not going to go into the details. But it also says, and whether such moves might create a chilling effect on future scientific research. Nye said that there is a chilling effect on scientists who are in extreme doubt about climate change. I think it is good. That's putting people in jail for it. Now, I just wonder if Bill Nye, the science guy, might say the same thing about letting so many Muslims into the country and the effects that causes, not to mention other crime-related issues and so many social issues. But when it comes to so-called climate change, so be it. By the way, it has been a warm winter a lot of places, but It's only about 60 here. I'm in a short sleeve shirt here in central Mississippi. Okay, Jon Stewart, yay, Jon Stewart Leibowitz, as I call him. He returned to the Late Show with Stephen Colbert yesterday to slam Trump's relationship with the media. And it was just so clever, you know, if you want to be so with it and impress all your special snowflake friends. There's no one cooler than Jon Stewart Leibowitz, but it was amazing. He just popped out of the desk when Stephen Colbert was giving his very nuanced criticism of how bad Trump is with the press and so many other serious concerns that he had. Whatever. You can find that online. It's a Variety article. I got that from the video. Whatever. Now, here's an interest. Now, the rest are headlines I got from the Gateway Pundit, JimHoft.com. I'm not going to go into that much detail with them, but the Gateway Pundit is an excellent source for a digest of what's going on. Not too much, and it is chronological, and I know Jim Hoft. He's a good guy. Even though he's been in the news, by the way, a lot lately. A lot of people from the left are picking on him because he's gay, and he's pro-Trump, and this is right after he got White House credentials for the Gateway Pundit. You know, Trump is doing things a little bit differently with the press, as we know. So anyhow, President Trump meets with black college presidents, but what did the media focus on? It focused on Kellyanne Conway, who was there taking pictures. That's the pictures they used. So here's what Kristen Taylor at the Gateway Pundit writes. In yet another example of why the Trump administration has such heartburn in dealing with the media, President Donald Trump met with about 60 presidents of historically black colleges and universities in the Oval Office on Monday. Yet, the media focused on Trump's senior advisor Kellyanne Conway taking pictures of the meeting while positioned on an Oval Office couch. Basically, she wasn't looking that professional, so they chose that as the picture to use. AFP, which is the French press agency, posted only one photo from the meeting, focused on Conway, with the caption, Kellyanne Conway checks her phone after taking a photo of President Donald Trump and leaders of black universities, colleges in Oval Office. Meanwhile in LA, this article by Christina Layla at the Gateway Pundit, protesters scream at police for allowing Trump supporters to exercise their First Amendment rights. Trump supporters showed up at an immigrant rally to exercise their First Amendment right to free speech, and the protesters were confused and angry at the police officers for allowing it. This is how brazen illegal aliens and leftists have become. They believe tax-paying American citizens shouldn't have First Amendment rights, but they should. You just can't make this stuff up. Trump supporters were chanting, USA, 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 which actually, by the way, was popularized in Los Angeles during the 1984 Olympics. And they were telling protesters that they will be deported. Hey, it's their right, First Amendment. The protesters were in utter shock that police officers were allowing the Trump supporters to peacefully assemble. A protester said, do you hear what they're saying? They're saying the most ignorant stuff. Why are you defending them? Newsflash to the protesters. It doesn't matter if the Trump supporters are saying ignorant stuff. It's their right to say what they want to say. The First Amendment protects offensive speech. As usual, leftists want to shut down speech they disagree with. And as Joel Staples Sanders just wrote, free speech for everyone except the deplorables. Thanks for posting that just now. And you keep posting comments. I'm looking at the screen right now. I may, if they're good, mention them right now. And I appreciate commentary if you're watching this after it's live and just talking about the issues. And also, if you want to write things for me, as Nora Tillman, N.R. Tillman on Facebook, and Larry Love, or Larry Cordova, as is his real name, they did. You know, I'm taking good writers. I appreciate it. I like, you know, what people I follow on Facebook generally do is write better than the media does. Okay, just a few more stories, courtesy of thegatewaypundit.com. Antifa domestic terrorists announced plans to disrupt March 4th, my ex-wife's birthday, pro-Trump rallies. And March 4th is, you know, March for something, sort of like May 4th, May the 4th be with you. It's cute. Okay, but there's a website calling It's Going Down. That actually is the name. It's Going Down. I don't know if they're shouting timber, but It's Going Down. Or yelling timber. It's Going Down website announced their upcoming plans this week. They list several rallies that they will target on their announcement. From their websites, we are calling on anti-fascists. I guess that's where the name Antifa, or whatever it's called, anti-fascists, anarchists, and anti-authoritarians. Yeah, like you really resist power when George Soros tells you to do something. Everywhere to resist what is sure to be an open display of racism and misogyny. While some argue that confronting fascists in the streets, do they even know what fascism is? I mean, it's National Socialism. Hello? While some argue that confronting fascists in the streets will only draw attention to them, we know better than to remain complicit. Fascists don't deserve a single outlet or forum to promote their disgusting ideology. Even though George Soros, did collaborate with the Nazis, but hey, we won't talk about that. Events like this empower and embolden these scum to further organize. In Berkeley, yeah, of course. Hey, Li Cheng, if you watch this, I wonder if you know who will be there. In Berkeley, the events are specifically being organized by members of the alt-right, connected to groups like the Proud Boys. Yeah, I don't know much about the Proud Boys. Isn't Rude Boys a Haitian or Jamaican term? But it's meant in a complimentary way. Okay, other stories. Unhinged HuffPo writer gives crazed interview with fake Russian accent, calls O'Keefe sex molester, smears gays. HuffPo writer, some guy named Ryan Clayton, he infiltrated CPAC this year. That was from last Thursday to Monday. And he was ultimately escorted out for being disruptive. He gave an interview with the America First Project in a fake Russian accent, where of course he pushed the fake news narrative that Trump is Putin's puppet. Major cringe. Ron Corey, I see you write, who is behind these crimes? I'm not sure which crimes you're referring to, but again, thanks for commenting while I'm on here. Ryan Clayton of the HuffPo is completely unhinged in this interview. He's obsessed with Russia, just like every delusional leftist is. It really is weird, Remember the song Russians by Sting, by the way? Ryan Clayton is clearly suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, probably Putin derangement syndrome too. And this video, once again, will make you cringe. It's called Unhinged. HuffPo writer gives crazed interview with fake Russian accent, calls O'Keefe sex molester. That's James O'Keefe, who has done so many great pranks exposing the left. And he smears gays, which is of particular interest, being gay, to Jim Hoft, who runs the Gateway Pundit, which I often cite. And Ron Corey has clarified he's talking about gravestone destruction, bomb threats, etc. I'm not getting into that so much right now, but my guess is that it is the left, people who want to make Trump look like an anti-Semite. Oh yeah, you're talking about the anti-Semitism article that I just did. Okay, Pelosi trashes Trump supporters, says we are listening to cases for impeachment. This is a transcript of what Nancy Stretch Pelosi, as Limbaugh calls her, relating to her serious amount of plastic surgery. Here's what she wrote. Here's what she said. Perhaps, how do I do a Nancy Pelosi voice? I'm not going to try. Perhaps misrepresenting the American people could be cause for impeachment. If so, there is plenty of grounds right now with the current president. There are plenty of grounds, by the way, Nancy. But it just isn't the case. That doesn't mean nobody is listening. By the way, that's a double negative. I think you mean that doesn't mean somebody is listening to cases that are being made in a very scientific, methodical way as to whether there are grounds for impeachment. But the fact is that we're trying to unite the country. Many of the president's supporters are just not ready to accept the fact that their judgment might not have been so great in voting for him. And by the time, he won the whole country. You win a freaky district of San Francisco. And by the time the case is made, perhaps they'll be ready to accept that. It's very hard, impeachment. It's very hard. Comment, the hag, referring to Pelosi, has nothing to lose, just like Hillary, Waters, and the remaining hysterical lefty women. It's all or nothing for them, as most won't even be of minimum sound mind by the next election. Are they of sound mind now? They know their time is now or never. Oh, I love this one. I love these male feminist types. When I went to Harvard, you saw these guys who were just the biggest brown nosers to the women. I think they thought it would help them get laid. But male feminist Jamie Kilstein, who I looked up because I was worried he might be Jewish. Only his father is Jewish, so he's not. But, it's a thing with me. I hate when loudmouth leftist Jews make us look bad. But he's not Jewish. Ron Corey writes, Pelosi voice, just squeal like a pig. Good. But this is about male feminist Jamie Kilstein. He had sexual misconduct claims. Citizen Radio, a progressively liberal podcast, has announced immediate changes. Co-host Allison Kilkenny has announced her former co-host and ex-husband Jamie Kilstein will be leaving the show after a barrage of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct claims became known today. The show would often make claims such as that 1 in 4 women are raped, the gender pay gap, and that the United States supports rape culture. Kilkenny posted this on Facebook today about Kilstein's departure. I guess he maybe had backed off for the Super Bowl. More women are sexually or are domestically abused on Super Bowl Sunday than any other day, which was complete bunk. Joel Staples Sanders writes, real women don't like femme males. I agree. Here's what was written about it on Facebook about Jamie's departure from Citizen Radio. Recently, some disturbing allegations have been brought to my attention entailing several women who have accused Jamie of being manipulative, emotionally abusive, and predatory in his behavior. I don't know if that means physical. There have been murmurs of this in the past, but understandably, the women wish to remain anonymous, so I was never able to learn the full scope of what happened until very recently, a couple days ago. I want to be careful with what I say here because I don't want to reveal anyone's identity until they're ready to speak publicly. But one of the victims was someone who worked for the show. Ooh, don't where you eat. Now that, that's my commentary. Now that I have the full story, I am deeply upset and disturbed by what I've learned. This is why I asked Jamie to leave the show. He agreed, and why he agreed to seek therapy. Aww. I also wanted him to publicly post about what he's done and apologize, but he declined to do that. I also wanted to be very clear in the episode title and description why he was leaving the show. He declined, so I'm posting here instead. And then she adds, without making this about me, I want you all to know I'm furious, crushed, and horrified by all of this. I always believed Citizen Radio was a genuinely safe space. And by the way, she's not using that ironically. And I'm trying to make it that way again. I'm so sorry for letting anyone down. So the self-proclaimed male feminist has not commented on the subject as of now. By the way, he has a lot of tattoos, so interesting look for a male feminist. Other quick headlines. Breaking. Trump sessions DOJ to drop government opposition to Texas voter ID law. Marine Le Pen again. Marine Le Pen vows to remove France from, quote, totalitarian, that's her word, European Union. This is fun. Wow. Again, these are from The Gateway Pundit, thegatewaypundit.com. Wow, CNN reporter blasts Hollywood elites as hypocritical, self-righteous, smug liberals. I think this woman's liberal. She's definitely black. A senior political reporter for CNN made a rare move on Monday when she blasted Hollywood liberals as hypocritical, self-righteous, and smug. Nia Malika Henderson was speaking specifically in regard to the Oscars. Transcript. I mean, Hollywood. I mean, probably one of the biggest purveyors of racist, ageist, sexist imagery across the globe, across the decades. And so this idea that they should get out there and lecture anyone about inclusion, about diversity, I mean, it's laughable. In the history of the Academy Awards, one African-American woman has won Best Actress, she said. The Oscars have been around for 90 years. These sort of self-righteous, smug liberals, I mean, I think it's really hypocritical in terms of what their industry is. So, well, she's coming at it from a different standpoint than those of us who are Trump supporters, but hey, I love when they eat their own, don't you? Matt Lauer urged George W. Bush, to attack Trump on multiple issues during an interview. You can watch that yourself, see the egging on going on there. You heard, I discussed this yesterday at Sunset a lot. Obama scheme to sabotage Trump admin with high-profile moles exposed. See the article yesterday by Lee Smith in the Weekly Standard. Very worthwhile. Here's another one. A big deal. Imagine if Obama were president or Bill Clinton were president and this happened. Or Hillary, even. Especially Hillary. Dow hits another record high. Greatest rally ever. Over half a month of consecutive all-time highs. That's a big deal. Healthcare lawyer, Obamacare expanded coverage to, quote, deadbeat dudes under 35 with tons of opiates. Gotta work on reading more smoothly, I know that. Radio station reveals leaked anti-Trump audio. Liberals are planning hostile town hall. That's been going on. They're infiltrating these town halls, which I guess is their right to do, but, you know, we have a right to go against them. And Hell's Angels have a right to show up, I suppose, too. Yeah, they're manufacturing these. I guess it's AstroTurf. Here's another headline. This one's fun, and especially because it has a picture of what she used to look like growing up, which is kind of shocking. Uh-oh. Rachel Dolezal on food stamps, unable to find work and on the verge of homelessness. This is the woman who pretended to be black, was working for the NAACP, and where was it? Somewhere in the state of Washington. And then she was revealed to be completely white. You can't make this stuff up. Sort of like Sean King, who is such a horse's ass. S-H-A-U-N, not the former Tampa Bay quarterback, who was one bad call away in 1999-2000 of being perhaps the most obscure quarterback ever to lead a team into the Super Bowl. But no, this is the white guy, Sean King. S-H-A-U-N, King. Just Google him. He's such a horse's ass. But Rachel Dolezal, for some reason, no one wants to have anything to do with her now after she lied about being black. She really doesn't even look it. She just did something with her hair. and she's broke. A couple years ago, Playboy might have been an option, but they don't do nudes anymore, so not happening that way, Rachel. I guess there's always Hustler, but Larry Flint's a liberal, so who knows. Trump, very concisely on the Oscars disaster. Enough said with just this. They focused so hard on politics, they could not get the ceremony right. And then, I'm going to end with this one. CNN. I think I do better analysis than you get on CNN, and it's just me with my iPhone 6, which is kind of cracked, by the way. A background, I'm really there. I'm not in some studio pretending, in front of a green screen, pretending to be in front of the City Hall in Byram, Mississippi. I'm really here. But CNN cut President Trump's feed. CNN cut President Trump's feed after he made a joke about the press. Here's what Gateway Pundit writes. President Trump met with the nation's governors on Monday, and while making a speech, he decided to poke fun at the media. Here's the transcript. It's going to be, I don't do Trump impersonations, or at least yet. It's going to be a really productive discussion, so productive that I'm going to ask the press to start leaving, because I wouldn't want them to see any great productive session. But they'll be seeing it and hearing about it. And a few seconds after that, what he made obviously was a joke, but most of the people in the room chuckled and laughed when he said it. But a few seconds later, CNN cut off the feed. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Who knows? But thanks for watching. I'll come back to you with a midday report from somewhere up the Mississippi River area somewhere. I'm going to head north. And thanks for watching. And if you have comments, appreciate it. If you want to further discuss these issues, I appreciate it. And if you ever want to write some stuff, that means you too, Ron Corey, that I might include in one of these so-called, well, I can call it a broadcast. Can I say so-called on the air? Is it airwaves? I don't know. But thanks for watching. This has been Adam Taxin, Sunrise Report from Byram, Mississippi.